So I'm going to be answering 6 questions. So why do I want to be a part of the Victorian Youth Congress, and what skills and experiences would it bring to me? Would it bring to the group? So I recently lived abroad in Canada for nearly 2 years, and I think something that happens when you live overseas is you kind of naturally compare the country you're living in and your home country, and through living overseas I gained a lot of insight into the things Australia does well and the things my community does well and the things we can do even better, because Canadians and their culture is very, very open-minded, and it really got me thinking about my own values, and having been a teenager in both these places, I feel like really gave me insight and inspiration to come back to this community and recognizing the issues moving forward. And I think this would be an incredible opportunity to be able to implement what I've learned. Additionally, I am the youngest of 8 children, and I've grown up in a house full of older siblings, which means that I've watched them, like significantly older than me, and I've watched them and how they have changed and moved and grown the community, and the things they've done. And I feel inspired by this, and I feel incredibly passionate now, and I feel like I have all this, I have so much to give, and I cannot think of a better avenue to be able to do that. Being able to speak for young people and building connections for youth engagement, because I think there's definitely room to grow there, and I feel like I can help that. So what community issues are you passionate about, and why? So I'm actually an Orthodox Jew. So having been part of a minority group my whole life, I think you gain a lot of insight into how other minority groups feel, and you become quite empathetic to that. And I think the connections between my community and the broader community are really interesting to me. But I think something that I'm really passionate about is when people just have bias through lack of education and understanding and fear. And I think for me, I try to sit those people down if they're in my life and explain to them in a calm and patient and non I think forceful way, but more gentle education I think is the way to go. So I'm very passionate about education of those and breaking those stereotypes and biases. And I'm also really passionate about breaking the apathy and that's currently prevalent within teenagers, because I feel like our generation, and I know this is said a lot, but we are suffering from a plague of apathy. There are so many people my age who just don't care, and I think this is coming from somewhere, and I think this is an issue that needs to be explored, because when we get to the stage where we're going to be the leaders, if there's only a very, very select few people that actually care about any of these issues across the board, then we have a broader issue, and we have a greater issue. And I think that solving this now and trying to understand why people feel this way is really important. So given the time commitment required of Congress members, you'll need to have a good time management skills. How do you currently make time for your commitments? So as my mum says, divide and conquer. Very busy woman, but always manages her time well, and I've taken a lot of lessons from her, and one of them is that time that you don't think you actually have, you do. So for example, when people see a missed opportunity to do work, I see an opportunity a lot of the time. For example, when I'm on the train and I have a long train ride, sitting, taking my psychology cue cards and learning those cue cards, and I think things like that are really good use of time, which means that you get to balance out. And I do have a lot of commitments, but I'm managing them well, and I'm not behind on my studies. I don't keep them up to date, and yeah. So what personal qualities do you have that would enable you to work effectively as part of the VIC team? And please give an example of when you worked in team and how you contributed to its goals and actions. So People often tell me that I'm very empathetic, sometimes too much. But I think the reason they say this is because I have an internal drive. When I walk into a room and someone's upset, even if I don't know them, I have an internal drive to like alleviate that person's pain or alleviate that person's suffering, be it big or small. So I think a quality of empathy and genuinely caring about people, coming from a good-hearted place, is a quality I can really give to the group. And I'm also willing to learn and have passion a lot. And a time I've worked in a group was actually I had to do a slam poem with one of my friends on Vatican II, which was a hard task. And I think how we worked in a team there was I felt comfortable and she felt comfortable to ask each other and if we needed help, and not kind of sit there and wallow, but be active rather than passive about it. And I think recognizing the needs of this project, and I think moving towards a shared goal that we had established before. And I think we defined our goals very well, and I think that we also divided the work, and we divided the work quite evenly, and we were both just really supportive of each other, and I think that was the main thing. So what other stuff have I been involved in? So one of the things that I've been involved in many an organisation over my 16 years. One of them is REACH, which is for youth by youth. It encourages youth to be introspective, to reach their potential through camps, through workshops, through programs. And I'm currently, this is my first year in REACH as new crew, and I'm being trained to eventually run those workshops, and I've become part of the REACH family, and it's an incredible experience, and I'm absolutely loving it. Another program I was selected for is an international leadership program called Dilatine Fellows, which runs for a year and a half, involving monthly workshops, overseas travel with the other 500 or so teen delegates at a youth congress, organising, and we organise community projects in our respective communities. There are 32 Dilatine Fellow communities around the world. So we have to pitch our idea for these community projects, for a project or issue which we're passionate about, and then we get funding for those projects if the ideas are pitched well, and we implement them in our communities, and they can be big or small. An example is one that last year's members did, which was organising Jewish teens to go to Aboriginal communities to learn, and for both communities to grow from that. Something else I'm currently, initiative I'm involved in, is Live Below the Line, where you have to live on $2 a day to replicate what it's like to live impoverished. And this is both personal and practical, raising money, kind of definitely developing empathy. I'm about to start this on Monday, and going through that for 5 days, what that feels like. And I'm also involved in the Great Chop, where I'll be cutting my hair for cancer, for awareness and money, along with 80 other boys and girls in my school. When I lived in Canada, I was involved in an organisation called WAC, a school group, World Action Club, where we raise money and awareness for different events. I raise money for Red Nose Day. I've undergone leadership training for my youth movement, and I'm about to start leading junior kids in years 3 to 6, where we run weekly programs for them, and then we go to camp with them. And I think ultimately, as I said before, I'm incredibly passionate, but I think that there are a lot of things that we need and the youth need, and we're not getting heard, I think, a lot of the time, and I want to change that. So being given the chance to advocate for young people is an opportunity I won't take for granted.